so hopefully you'll be done in time to pick up your kids from school. In the time allotted to us, we are going to address the growing female dissatisfaction, which has come to characterize our culture. I want to begin with a little story, because 3 weeks ago we read in the Torah about Adam and Eve and the commandment from God that they must be fruitful and multiply. So the Medrash actually explains the more intimate interaction between Adam and God. God says to Adam, Adam, you must have children, you must populate the earth, be fruitful and multiply. Adam says to God, but God, what does that mean? God says, well, go and give Eve a compliment. Say something nice about what she's wearing. She wasn't wearing much. So Adam goes and he says, oh, it's very pretty what you're wearing. And Eve gets all doughy-eyed, and Adam runs back to God and says, that was really nice. She enjoyed it. What next? And God said, well, you should follow that up with a kiss. So Adam runs and he says to God, well, what's a kiss, God? And God explains to him, this is how you give a kiss. So Adam runs and gives Eve a kiss, and she enjoys it, and her countenance lights up, and Adam runs back and says, God, that was nice, but what next? He says, well, you should give her a hug. And Adam says, but what's a hug, God? So God shows Adam how to hug, and he runs to Eve, and he gives her a giant hug, and Eve enjoys that even more. So Adam runs back, and he says, and what now, God? And God says, well, now you take it further, and you do what comes naturally. So Adam runs to Eve, and God is surprised to see him come back so immediately. Adam looks up at God and says, God, yes, Adam, what's a headache? We have one woman in the audience who really like that. Okay. God bless you. May there be more like you. My friends, never before have women been as educated as they are today. 60% of all college graduates are women. Women are achieving near parity in salary, income, and earnings as men. 3 out of the last 5 secretaries of state have been women, and many believe that the next president may be a woman. And yet for all of that, we have skyrocketing rates of female depression that cannot be explained by social anthropologists, by cultural experts. 3 out of every 3 women, 1 is on one of the miracle drugs of our generation. Prozac, Zoloft, Paxil, skyrocketing rates of unhappiness. Today, we will make history. For the first time ever, we will answer not just a question, but the question. The question that has never been answered. The question that has forever been asked, but has never been fully addressed. The question that Marie Bonaparte put to Sigmund Freud. She was a great niece of Napoleon, and she was a student of Freud as he was in flight from the Nazis in 1938. Marie Bonaparte wrote to Sigmund Freud and said, you who have analyzed the innermost recesses of the human mind, there is still one question that you have not answered. What is it that a woman wants? What does a woman want? And all the men, the 3 men in the audience are looking around and saying, yeah, I have no idea what my wife wants. What do you want, for goodness sake? What do you want? I do this in marital counseling all the time. Couples come to me in troubled relationships, and the wife will sit there saying, he just doesn't get it. He doesn't get it. And the husband will say, that's because she's depressed. No matter what I do, she's unhappy, she's depressed, she's like her mother. Her mother's depressed, and she's depressed, and it's genetic, it has nothing to do with me. I'm not the one who made her unhappy, she's depressed. Do you know what Freud responded to Marie Bonaparte? Do you know what he said? When she asked, what is it that a woman wants? He said that he could not answer the question. He left it as a giant question mark, which is why we had to wait to Turnberry, Florida, right here today at the Kesher Scholarship Luncheon, where for the rest of your lives you will all remember that we changed the course of human history by finally answering that question. Can anyone help me for a moment? What does a woman want? I'm going to get 3 people try to answer it. What does a woman want? Go ahead, please. A woman wants appreciation. She doesn't want to just give of herself and allow it to go unacknowledged. She wants appreciation, correct? What's your name? You don't have a name. You're here anonymously. Not only are you going to give anonymously, but you're actually going to speak anonymously as well. You are going to hide behind the camouflage of anonymity. That works for me. Jane Doe. Nice to have you at this luncheon, Jane. God bless you. Sorry? Chana Doe. Miss Doe. The doughy eyes. Okay, thank you very much. A woman wants to appreciate. Anyone else? What does a woman want? What does a woman want? Go ahead, please. All the way in the corner. A woman wants what she can't have. Ooh, that means that women are insatiable. Then the men are right. That no woman can be made happy. Sex.
That's what
no woman wants sex. What are you talking about? You don't. By the way, isn't it typical that the man believes the woman wants sex? This is a women's luncheon, sir. You're lucky that we fed you at all. You're lucky that you were even given a glass of cold water. So you just gotta sit there and be quiet. A woman wants sex. Don't you know that marriage is the price that men pay for sex? And sex is the price that women pay for marriage? Do you not know that? Don't you know what Zsa Zsa Gabor said? Ask me nothing about sex because I have always been married. Don't you know that they come to the husband says to his wife at night, how about some sex tonight, honey? And she responds, not tonight, I have a headache. And yet it's the man who can have an axe lodged in his head. And he's still ready. Honey, I don't know how to tell you this, but we can do it if you want, but you've got a axe that's kind of lodged in your head. And he says, so what? Big deal. So, nice try. Women want sex. One more. Appreciation, sex. One more. Get right here at this table.
Acceptation.
What sorry?
Communication.
A woman wants communication. A woman wants a husband who speaks to her, right?
No,
not just a husband who sits there. I'm sorry?
Listens.
A husband who listens. Oh my God.
Not speak, listen.
What is it? Is this like a male takeover of this luncheon? Unless you are a man who is deeply in touch with his feminine side, you gotta listen here. You see, all the women say we don't listen. That's why there was enough communication, correct? Because the guy doesn't listen. So women want a man who listens. So I have a simple question. If all of you are right that a woman wants to be appreciated, she wants to be heard, forget the sex part. Why does a woman leave her parents' home? Won't her parents give her all of that without taking a risk of shacking up with a stranger? In fact, when I ask most women what does a woman want, the answer that is most common is the woman wants to be loved. A woman wants to be loved. Your parents love you unconditionally. Your parents will not divorce you and they will not cheat on you. When's the last time Mr. and Mrs. Smith sit down with their daughter Penelope and say, Penelope, we have to have a talk. Your mother and I have discussed that we feel the relationship with you is not working out. Now either we're going to move out or you're going to move out, but we need a trial separation. Or have you heard of Mrs. Smith going to Susie, the next door neighbor's daughter, in the middle of the night saying, Susie, shh, here's a beautiful secret pocketbook I bought for you. You're the daughter I really wanted. My own daughter doesn't understand me. If your parents will not divorce you, cheat on you, if your parents will communicate with you and appreciate you, and come on, who appreciates you more than your Jewish mother? Then why do you take your chances with a man? In fact, I can ask this question going back to our first story. The story of female unhappiness and the inability of men to address women's true, most deep-seated needs, this ignorance expressed by Sigmund Freud himself, is traced back to the first story in the Torah. Eve, the first woman, is miserable. She's unhappy. How do we know she's miserable? Because she's seduced by the serpent. And rule number one of relationships is you cannot seduce a happy woman. On the contrary, the womanizer is he who can spot the unhappy wife from outer space. There is something essentially lacking in the relationship between Adam and Eve that makes Eve seducible, and the serpent can see it. But she lives in the Garden of Eden. She lives in Miami. She lives in paradise. Actually, you guys don't live in the Garden of Eden because I live in the Garden State of New Jersey. Do you know what actually says that on our license plate? I think for New Jersey, Garden State is kind of like the gematria of petrochemical fumes or something along those lines. But you guys who live in paradise, who live in Miami, Eve inhabits paradise, and she's married to Adam, who is God's handiwork, and he's perfect. He's chiseled by the Almighty himself. It's kind of what most of you women will witness when you will watch your rabbi giving a sermon every Shabbos. Because what we rabbinic husbands always have, every rabbi has something called the rabbinic monopack. Now, most men, like I was just in Australia, men are running and swimming across the harbor, everyone's exercising, they have like the six-pack. The rabbis have something called the monopack because we don't believe in division. We believe in the famous statement of the great United States of America, e pluribus unum, from the many, one. And it takes many years of cholent intake to create this monopack. But here you have Eve married to a perfect divine specimen living in paradise, and she's unhappy. Why is she unhappy? What's missing from her relationship? What does a woman want? And my friends, here's where we make history. It is this. A woman doesn't want to be loved. If she wanted to be loved, she would never leave her parental home. A woman wants to be chosen. A woman wants to be the one and the only. And the one thing your parents cannot give you, they can love you, admire you, appreciate you, communicate you, adore you, flatter you, support you, nurture you, and compliment you. But they cannot choose you. When your mother tells you you're the prettiest girl in the whole class, you roll your eyes because you know that she has a genetic AK-47 pointed to her head that's making her say it. But when a man says it, when a stranger says it, you believe him and you enjoy the foremost, most central human emotion that is necessary to our psychological and emotional well-being, and that is to feel that you're special, that you are unique. Eve is miserable in the Garden of Eden because Adam can give her everything but one. He cannot choose her because there's only one woman. So no matter how much he loves her, it doesn't make her feel special. That's why we do the strangest thing of all at a Jewish wedding ceremony. We get married in public, which is bizarre. Here you have the most intimate commitment that a man and a woman can make to each other, to death do us part. And in the Ksuba, we read about sexual commitments and all kinds. What is your Uncle Joe, who you can't stand, doing in the audience? Because when a woman is chosen, in order for it to be effective and complete, there must be a deselection of everyone else present. She must be chosen to the exclusion of everyone else. The Jewish people are not God's communication people. They're not God's appreciated people. We are God's chosen people. And the reason why we're seeing skyrocketing rates of unhappiness today is that women do not feel chosen. You can't feel chosen in a world where there are so many distractions, where our basic erotic focus is being eroded. You can't feel chosen in a world where money and business and commerce comes before the romantic commitment of marriage. You can't be chosen, even if there's no other woman, you still want the two first commandments. I am the Lord your God, and there shall be no other gods before me. I am first. You put me before money, before career, before education, before everything. I need to know that I am special enough to elicit your commitment. And I need to know that I am the only. It's what God demands of each and every one of us. You can have other pursuits, but I must come first. Shivisi Hashem l'negdi sameh. You must pray to me first. You can't put off putting on tefillin in the morning. And I must be the only. Every woman wants to be Shabbos, where we make every pursuit secondary. You may make the mistake of believing that the reason to support an organization like Kesher is so that children who are learning challenges can be educated. That is not the case, my friends. Whether children are going to be expertly educated is actually secondary to something else completely. Thank you very much. Thank you. Whether or not, here, I'm going to move this to the side. Whether or not our children are expertly educated, they will somehow make it through life. You know, sometimes even those who drop out of college are even more successful than those who don't. Larry Ellison dropped out of college, and Steve Jobs dropped out of college, and Mark Zuckerberg dropped out of college, and I could go on. The purpose of Kesher is not to educate a child. Education is secondary. The purpose of Kesher is to make those children feel like they are chosen. That a community does not abandon them. You did not see tears from a student, a former student of Kesher today, because she got the greatest possible education. Because then we would see every kid at Harvard crying around the campus. You saw tears because a young girl was touched by the love of her educators. Because once upon a time, we took children like that and we made them feel like they were secondary. We took children like that and we made them feel like they were somehow inadequate. We took children like that and we made them feel that if they just tried a little bit harder, they might elicit a little bit more of our love. And God Almighty, we have learned to change because of the generosity of people like yourselves who have seen the spark of the divine, a fragment of God in those children, which makes them of infinite value. That's why we have schools like Kesher. They actually determine more than any of our other communal institutions whether or not we see every child as chosen. Or whether we're going to continue to feed the lie that if you make $1 billion, then maybe you'll be special. Or if you have a super thin body that is supermodel good looking, then maybe you will be loved. My friends, I am tired of working so hard to be loved. Aren't you? You know what we've done to women in our culture? We have made it never before, at least with us men, all we have to do is make a lot of cash to be loved. If we make a lot of money, we get communal respect, we even get an aliyah at the shul, we get our names up in stained glass windows. But for women, your very being is challenged. We have made it a sin for women to undertake the two most natural processes known to the human organism: eating and aging. You know, it's a remarkable thing. I do a lot of marital counseling, and these women come to me with their husbands, and a lot of them have sexual dysfunction. I counsel a lot of platonic marriages, and I'll ask the woman, I know 15 minutes, so tell me your sexual history. What went wrong? Where does the dysfunction come from? At what age did you lose your virginity? And she'll immediately speak to a complete stranger about the most intimate details of her life, how many sexual partners she's had. She'll tell me everything. And then when I follow up and say, and how old are you? How dare you?